Come on everybody now, gather around faster, 'cause Cone's about to talk about his modified blaster.
What is up guys, Pone here, and today I've got a fourth installment on my long-term project. Now when I first started the project, I'd only planned to do 3 parts, but then when I got finished finally with the stock and the front barrel attachment, it was just ridiculously long, way too long to really wield effectively. So what I wanted was another blaster that would work with this front barrel attachment, and so I did some messing about, and I figured out that with the Rayven, it fits almost perfectly. So that's what this part of the project is. I did pretty much the same paint job I did on the Strife, but I did a Rayven. Now this was actually the Rayven that I purchased a few weeks ago when I did my Nerf thrifting road trip. It's one of the kind of lime green Ravens you see around. I couldn't bring myself to paint my Elite Rayven, so this was a great alternative. As you can see, this fits much better. It makes the blaster long enough so you have something to grab on the front, but you can still shoulder it very effectively, even with this long barrel extension. When the Modulus line first came out, they had the front barrel extension that you got with the main blaster, and I really liked when I saw people putting that on the front of the Rayven. I thought that gave the Rayven a great profile, something to actually grab onto up here instead of trying to shoulder this thing super tightly. This kind of looks ridiculous. So I decided to paint up the Modulus front barrel extension to go along with this Rayven setup as well. And I think that makes it look pretty nice. You got something kind of longer up here to grab. It still makes it feel nice and tight for those close quarters combat situations. Another thing that it does is it extends your reach on the Strife, which makes it kind of more rifle-like. I really like how this looks. I'm happy to have done this because I now have actually kind of got a modular setup. I've got the Rayven, the Strife with the front barrel attachment, or with no front barrel attached, kind of mix and match here. So anyway, I really like how this looks and feels, and wanted to do this for quite a while. As soon as I saw the first, I think it's probably on Instagram, I saw the first person posting just a regular Elite Rayven with a Modulus front barrel on it. I was in love. As I have been doing lately, I rewired this with Rhino motors and then a micro switch. When I did the Strife, I actually used 16 gauge silicone insulated wire, but this time I went with 18 gauge, and it was quite a bit nicer. Things fit in there a little bit better, and I don't think there's going to be any performance issues. Now when I hit the chrono with this, it gave me numbers that I was pretty much expecting. It had an average FPS of 103, which is pretty standard so far from what I've experienced with Rhino motors running at 11.4 volts. This I'm just using IMR batteries. I'm kind of transitioning to try out lipos, but for now I'm still just using the high voltage 3.7 volt AA size 14500 batteries that you see around so often. Alright, so FPS around 100. Let's do a firing demonstration anyway, just because I love listening to Rhino motors. Pretty fun blaster. Alright, well that's sort of the overview. Let's take a look at the inside. Alright, so here's a quick look at the internals. Nothing's changed here. I did lubricate the trigger quite a bit, as well as the rev trigger. And then here I've actually cut this down because I wanted to keep this here to keep the rev trigger in place, but I also needed to fit in this 16 amp micro switch. So this portion has been cut down, and then the trigger pull is kind of like a mechanical keyboard now, just kind of on and off. And then this micro switch has been held in by some epoxy putty, as well as I drove a single screw in there just to give it a tighter hold. And then here's the wiring for the micro switch, and that is leading up to here. These are MTB Rhino motors, and I actually bought a few of their new Honey Badger 6-volt motors, so I'll probably try and do a review on those as soon as I get them. But until then, we're still using the 12-volt Rhinos, and of course we've got the positive lead leading down to the common terminal, and then the normally open terminal negative lead leading over to the battery tray, and then the negative lead coming off of the motors here and leading to the negative on the battery tray. So this did require a little trimming inside the motor cage. Rhinos don't want to fit perfectly with there's little ribs in here, so I dremeled all that out in order to get these to fit in there. And then I actually replaced one of these rubber band fasteners with an old one off a Strife I had. You can see this is pretty old and worn, and it's lost a lot of its elasticity. Alright guys, well that is it for me today. I just wanted to go over a mod on the Rayven I've been working on with the same sort of orange blotchy paint job that I've been doing. And remember, as always, it's not about having fun. It's about how pretty your blaster looks and how hard you wreck your friend.